Well, whether you like it or not, we've got ringside seats for an epic battle between the executive branch and Donald Trump and the Supreme Court, led by, I don't know, Chief Justice Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, Alito. It changes every day. And the question is Donald Trump going to find an issue that he is going to dig in and not abide by the United States Supreme Court rulings on, throwing us not into a constitutional crisis, into a constitutional war? We cover it the only way we know how, telling truth on Unprecedented, Unlegal AF. And here's a clip. Why don't we do Abrego Garcia first? Because so many moving parts there, including back at the Zinnus, the federal judge Zinnus level, including things happening today that we'll be reporting on throughout the weekend. But it started with a Supreme Court decision. And a very interesting, one of the rare times we got 9 justices agreeing on something against Donald Trump. I mean, you can't even get them to agree on their sweet greens order. I don't know how this happened. Why don't you talk about the 3/4 of a page decision, and then we'll move it forward to how it's operating in real time with Judge Zinnus in Maryland.
Well, I think as most people probably know, because it has been widely reported, basically the Supreme Court agreed with the lower court that the administration had to facilitate his return in order for him to receive actual due process, whether or not he should or should not have been deported. Now, the key reason why all 9 justices agreed is because for a judge not to believe in due process is basically saying you are pointless. The whole point of the judge is due process. The 9 justices didn't go into the merits of whether or not he should be deported. They just said he needed due process before the administration deports him. And I think that's why we got a unanimous decision here, because without due process, there is no law, really. And so for any of those judges to have said the administration didn't need due process, it's like they are voting against themselves, I would say. So that's the key for that decision. Obviously, a huge win for people who care about the law, because without due process, I mean, the due process is a cornerstone of our legal system, whether or not it's in a civil setting with lawsuits or criminal setting. That is how we are protected when we go through the system is something like due process. So do you have something there to add there before we...
No, I think what we have is, I mean, even though Sotomayor and Kagan and Jackson would have gone further, all 9 believe that the Judge Zinnus, who we're going to talk a little bit about, was completely right and vindicated. This is a judge who's been attacked mercilessly by MAGA, Trump, and people in his entourage for being leftist and Marxist and activist and all this other corrupt and all this stuff. And you know what she is? She's an affirmed district court judge who just got, who is now, and there's no, now, that's an old line about if you're going to shoot the king, you got to kill the king. Otherwise you have a wounded, pissed off king. Well, they took their shot at Zinnus, didn't work. And now they're back in her courtroom. And the court was quite clear that when it came to her ruling about her protecting the due process and constitutional rights of Abrego Garcia, who was deported and removed over, and the government knowing that he was subject of a protection order, and yet they illegally sent him to El Salvador, not under the Alien Enemies Act that we'll talk about next, under another deportation standard. They know that, and that drove the decision of the Supreme Court and Judge Zinnus, which is, we have, I don't want to call him an innocent man, because I don't know his guilt or innocence at this moment. I'm focused on due process. But we have somebody who was illegally deported and has been rotting in a jail for 29 days. And the Justice Department and the Department of Justice doesn't care about it. And that is annoying the Supreme Court and pissing off Judge Zinnus. So they remanded it back to her with only one instruction. They said, everything you did was right. Everything you ruled is right. Your jurisprudential underpinnings in your analysis, all right, right on. Your ruling that you needed to do this in order to protect the due process rights of this individual, correct. Your language that you used in your order, all right, except for one word we want you to clarify. You were right to order that the Trump administration immediately facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. You used the word effectuate. And we're not quite sure what you mean by that. And if you mean by effectuate, they don't say this, but this is where you see between the lines. Supreme Court saying effectuate is putting something into action. Facilitate means you're encouraging through your own actions, through everything that's in your power. You're encouraging an outcome or encouraging somebody else to do something in conduct. Effectuate means that all else fails, you're going to do it. And what they don't want is the judge to order effectively SEAL Team 6 to knock down the wall and take them out of that prison to effectuate. So she cleared up the problem. The order came out at 7 p.m. on Thursday night from the Supreme Court. We all reported on it. Within an hour, Judge Zinnus got it. Now, freshly off a win at the Supreme Court. Nothing puts a pep in your step as a federal judge to get a big win at the Supreme Court. And I'll go back one thing. There's one line in there about if you effectuate, we don't know what you mean, be careful, you might step into foreign affairs and the exclusive power of the executive branch. That's the only reference to it. Of course, that's the part that the Trump administration circled and are lying to the American people by telling them, see, we were vindicated. We have foreign affairs powers. That's not what the case is about.
Right.
You have to be intentionally misreading it in order to come to that conclusion so you can capture the news cycle. So Zinnus gets it and says, I'm going to fix everybody's wagon. I hear you, Supreme Court. I hear you on instructions on remand. And I'm going to take my red pencil, my blue pen, and I'm going to take out the word effectuate. And I'm going to double down on the word facilitate. And I'm going to tell you, Trump administration, to facilitate with all necessary steps to get him out. And I'm going to take away the deadline that I originally set because you guys seem to be concerned about deadlines. And I just want to hear what the Supreme Court says I'm entitled to hear as a officer of the court administering justice. What have you done to get him out? What are you planning to do? Let's have it here. And tell me all that to get this ball started tomorrow morning, Monday. This would have been Friday morning at 9:30. Trump administration freaked out. Can't do it. Sorry, Judge. Too soon. We're busy. We're looking over the order. We'll get back to you. Just said, excuse me? She wrote another order and said, your motion for an extension of time until the 15th or 16th of April, denied. You have till 11:30. We'll see you at 11, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock at a hearing. 11:30 comes. They did it again. Talk about picking your losing battles. Sorry, Judge. Can't do it. Impracticable. You're setting deadlines we can't meet. And you're not allowed to set deadlines anymore. That's what the Supreme Court said. We're like, where did the Supreme Court say that? That the judge can't administer her own courtroom and set her own rules.
Right.
So the hearing got worse. Have you seen the order that came out from the hearing?
No. Tell me what happened.
So the order came out, and she said, effectively, she said to the lawyers for Abrego Garcia, this is for Saturday, I'm going to encourage you to file another motion. She just told Abrego Garcia's lawyers that she wants them to file a motion for contempt against the Trump administration. In her order, she said you had no excuse for noncompliance. I asked you simple questions, Mr. Ensign, for the Department of Justice. Where is Mr. Abrego Garcia? And what have you done to get him out as of right now? And you had no answer from me. That troubles me, especially given the Supreme Court decision. Well, we don't read the Supreme Court decision that way, Judge. She said, I don't know how you would have read the Supreme Court decision. So in her order, she said, I fixed my order. I solved the problem. You came to my courtroom not only ill-prepared, but you also suggested, listen to this, Dina. You also suggested, Mr. Ensign, that you were not given information by your client, the administration, purposefully, so you would come into my courtroom without knowledge. That's a problem.
It's a problem.
And the fact that he admitted that, I wonder if Drew Ensign is going to survive.
Yeah.
Or if he's going to get fired like his predecessor got fired for it. So she said, here's what we're going to do. Every day, starting Saturday at 5 p.m., you're going to give me a status report every day until I tell you to stop. It's like hit yourself with a stick every day until I tell you to stop. And then you're going to tell me what you've done to get him out and where he is every day at 5 o'clock. And I'm going to see you on Tuesday at another in-court hearing to get this coming Tuesday. And then she looked in the order at the plaintiff's side. Quinn Emanuel, the big law firm that's representing Abrego Garcia, and said, I'll invite other motions by Saturday at 5 o'clock and Sunday at 5 o'clock. You guys can respond. I mean, that's where we're at right now. The question is here's the question for you. Is the Trump administration going to run back to the Supreme Court and try to get some sort of relief from because they don't like that she's being mean to them? Like, what do you think?
I mean, they might try, but the Supreme Court opinion, clearly when they were trying to tell her to clarify it, and the argument about national security says that the judge can ask for steps for how the administration is planning on having him return. I mean, they say that in the opinion. So she seems well within her authority from the Supreme Court. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to try to go up, but they would fail for sure. A judge asking the party to come in and tell her how they are planning on fulfilling the order is par for the course. That's something that judge does in every case. And clearly the opinion in the Supreme Court allowed her to do that. So yeah.
We'll come back. I mean, there's a lot of action right now, a lot of activity.
Yeah. I mean, I think the bottom line is that stalling is a big legal strategy that the Trump administration is doing for all these cases. And so stalling in this case, the more that they stall for time, the harder it is going to be to bring him back. And they know that. So I'm glad that the judge, though, is as you said, emboldened by the Supreme Court opinion, and certainly not going to let them get away with this.
He's day 29 she'll be 30 tomorrow, having been kidnapped and sent in prison. He's like the Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, you got to get the guy out, bring him home. And that's what the judge said. To your point, the judge during the hearing with Drew Ensign said, I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to let the administration and the Department of Justice slow walk this or relitigate things that have already been decided by the United States Supreme Court. That we are not doing. Yeah. So listen, right judge for justice, wrong judge for Donald Trump in Judge Zinnus, and we will follow her closely here. Welcome back. We do a show called Unprecedented, where we sit at the intersection of law, politics, and the United States Supreme Court every week. And this week, you saw me with my co-anchor, Dina Doll of the Midas Touch Network, and we covered the Abrego Garcia case with all of its permutations and twists, starting with the United States Supreme Court ruling. You want to know more about the United States Supreme Court and understand it better? Come on to Unprecedented, only on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. And while you're here, hit the subscribe button. It helps continue to bring you this kind of content that you enjoy. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.